In 1939, as 22,000 Nazis occupied Madison Square Garden, the RSS's own guru penned a manifesto praising the Nazi purging of German Jews as a wonderful example to emulate in India. 2 continents the same year and an identical appetite for purging a country of the wrong kind of people. And this week, 87 years after American Nazis claimed the stage of the most famous arena in the United States of America, India's Nazis will walk in their footsteps. Founded in 1925, the RSS is the world's oldest, largest, and fastest growing fascist paramilitary. And it has spent a century devoted to a blitzkrieg mission to remaking India in its Hindu nationalist image and to building the kind of fatherland that their guru wanted, one where Muslims and Christians live as guests or don't live at all. 6 million uniformed men who answer to no one but their supreme leader, Mohan Bhagwat, whose victory tour celebrating the paramilitary's first 100 years will stage its grandest spectacle at Madison Square Garden on the 29th of August. And they have built their fatherland fantasy on a foundation of corpses from the first, starting with the original act of terrorism in independent India, the assassination of Gandhi by an RSS member. India moved to crush the paramilitary inside of a week, and the Home Minister who signed that ban warned that their speeches were full of communal poison, that the poison had cost that country the life of Gandhi, and that after Gandhi was murdered, the RSS handed out sweets. Well, the RSS's fingers must be sticky by now from all of the sweets they have distributed over the decades, because they have perpetrated more than a dozen pogroms in the century since they assassinated Gandhi, and their stormtroopers keep smashing down doors across India to drag families into the streets and slaughter them there, hunting Christians through their villages while they torch the churches and gut the orphanages, raping nuns and burning missionaries alive. In Gujarat, they gang-raped Muslim women in the road and set them on fire, hacked children apart in front of their mothers, and burned whole families alive inside their homes, butchering 2,000 in just 3 days. And they did not just slaughter Gujarat's Muslims. They turned them into such a rarity that they're practically a rumor, which Mayor Mamdani knows all too well, because when he tells people that his father's family are Gujarati Muslims, he says that they're shocked that there are still any left at all after what the RSS did to them. That is the movement which has entranced Western fascists from its origins to the present day. Anders Breivik, the most lethal white nationalist terrorist of the 21st century, called on Hindu nationalists and white nationalists to learn from each other and cooperate as much as possible because their goals are, in his words, more or less identical. And the RSS has been jumping into bed with its Western counterparts ever since, sending its leaders here to slip under the sheets with the supremacists who are trying to remake our country along religious nationalist lines. It's a mutual admiration society, naturally, because white nationalism and Hindu nationalism are 2 sides of the same goddamn coin. And God knows we already have enough trouble with our own fascists without importing anybody else's. Yet India's fascists arrive in disguise because the RSS cloaks its legacy of death in the rhetoric of universal oneness. And their chief is coming here specifically to launder 100 years of butchery on the most famous stage in America. And yet the blood drenching the RSS's hands will stain everyone who welcomes them, which is why Madison Square Garden must yank the red carpet out from under the brown shirts of India. Cancel the rally before the RSS poisons the Big Apple, and then tries to hoodwink us by pageantry into taking a bite of that poisoned apple so that we slip into the slumber of universal oneness as Mohan Bhagwat presides over a vile spectacle of fascism.
Good morning. My name is Sarita Pandey and I speak on behalf of Save America from Hindutva. The RSS is not a cultural organization. It is a Hindu supremacist paramilitary movement whose ideology and networks have been associated with horrific violence against Muslims, Christians, and other minorities in India. Killings, attacks on homes and businesses, and the destruction and desecration of places of worship. This movement is not confined to India. For decades, the RSS has built an infrastructure in the United States through deep ideological, historical, and organizational connections with US-based Hindu supremacist groups. Its ecosystem operates through shakhas, student organizations, charities, cultural programs, lobbying campaigns, and political advocacy, seeking influence in our universities, libraries, school systems, legislatures, and interfaith spaces. Now, its supreme leader, Mohan Bhagwat, is coming to Madison Square Garden. There is nothing inherently wrong with seeking legitimacy in America, but the question is, legitimacy for what? Bhagwat is seeking American respectability for a movement and an ideology fundamentally at odds with American values of religious equality, pluralism, and equal citizenship. If this event proceeds, its most valuable output will be the photographs and the images. The supreme leader of the RSS beneath the Madison Square Garden name, addressing thousands from a celebrated American stage. Those images will circulate worldwide as evidence that Bhagwat was welcome and honored in New York. This is reputation laundering for an extremist organization. It's equivalent to giving a stage to the leaders of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom has recommended targeted sanctions against the RSS for responsibility or tolerance of severe violations of religious freedom. American institutions should not help sanitize its record. Madison Square Garden should not lend its name, prestige, and credibility to this project. Mohan Bhagwat and RSS deserve scrutiny and sanctions, not legitimacy, spotlights, and applause. We call on Madison Square Garden to cancel this event. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Kylie Madhav and I'm speaking to you today on behalf of Hindus for Human Rights. You've already heard a bit about who Mohan Bhagwat is and who the RSS are, so I won't belabor the point. But it bears repeating that they are a far-right extremist organization rooted in religious division, founded in the early 20th century, and heavily inspired by some of the most vile political movements of the 20th century, including no less than the Nazi Party. This same RSS that drew its ideological inspiration from Adolf Hitler, quite literally stated, and whose early members were responsible for the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi because he dared dream of an India that was large enough for practitioners of all religions. This same RSS, much as their ideological predecessors, the Nazis, did in 1939, is coming to the United States to speak at our country's most famous arena. They think they can get away with this because, much like the Nazis in 1939, they are relying on plausible deniability. They are relying on Americans and New Yorkers either not knowing or pretending they did not know what the RSS represent. You've already heard about their atrocities. Again, but it bears repeating. They have been behind some of the most violent sectarian moments in India's history for the last 3/4 of a century. And they're coming on Saturday to speak on the topic of oneness. However, the oneness that they present is deceptive. They're not talking about a spiritual oneness or a oneness that unites all people. They're talking about a oneness that reflects their ideology and their way of seeing the world. That oneness closely reflects the oneness expressed by the Nazi Party in the 1930s that only saw room for a certain kind of person in Germany. The RSS only sees room for a certain kind of person in India, and that person is almost always upper caste, that person is almost always Hindu, that person is almost never queer, and so on and so forth. And in a country as diverse as India, and for that matter, the United States, we as citizens of conscience must not allow the wool to be pulled over our eyes by political actors who do not care about us or the beauty that India and the United States represent, two of the most diverse countries on earth. Now you know what the RSS are. Now you know who Mohan Bhagwat is. Now you do not have an excuse to not demand from your elected officials at the city, state, and federal level to cancel this event. There is also a phone number that I'm going to read out once I unlock my phone for Madison Square Garden that you can call to demand that they cancel this event. It will take all of 5 minutes, and it could truly be a generational act preventing the RSS from gaining a foothold in this country and around the world. Don't let them be pulled over your eyes.